Welcome to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts Show. I'm Lisa Decker, your host, and I am so excited to have you here today because we are going to have a great show. I've got a special guest for you and some fun tips to help you get through the holidays. I just want you to know I am a specialist in the financial matters of divorce, also known as a certified divorce financial analyst. So I do have understanding about these matters and how difficult it can be to get through this time. Coached clients on the financial matters for almost 14 years now, and I know the holidays can be especially hard. So we wanted to mix up this show today and bring you something that can brighten your holidays a bit, whether you are thinking about divorce or you are in the midst of it, or it's your first Christmas or holiday alone, or you're a few years out and you're still trying to figure your way. So I will give some credentials later on where you can get more information. Real quick here, divorcemoneymatters.com is information about our financial services, and divorcetownusa.com is where you can find all of the professionals that I bring on this show. And I am so excited today to have one of our fabulous members, Kathleen Renee. Kathleen, welcome to the show. Kathleen, tell us about yourself and how you serve clients in divorce.
Hi, Lisa. I'm Kathleen Renee. I'm a certified life coach, and I call my business Road Trip with a Life Coach. Since divorce especially, I always enjoyed travel. And in those early days, I traveled, every other week a lot when you don't have your kids. And now mine are a little older. So I travel alone almost full time. And I like to inspire people coaching to reinvent their life, to get up and moving when you feel stuck. It's the worst thing in the world. So you can watch me lead by example. I'm also divorced, not that long, and I just help people reinvent almost every aspect of their life. As you know, after divorce, everything changes. So those changes can be good.
How long has it been for you, Kathleen?
This will be my 5th Christmas. We were separated part of that. It's probably a different show, but pretty early on for me, when we were in the process where we live, there was a huge wildfire. So both of our homes burned down.
Oh my goodness.
Along with tens of thousands. So that sort of changed the course of things for a while. So, but it's been 5 years separated and a few divorced.
I see. Wow. Well, that's a lot of challenges. And, divorce is one of life's challenges. I've been through the death of my husband, so I understand, challenges as well. And also a 2-time breast cancer survivor. And, life comes at us sometimes, and it can be very difficult. And reaching out and getting the right support can be immeasurable. I mean, there's really no words for having a lifeline when you don't know how to pull yourself up and where to go next, to walk with someone who has walked in your shoes, who can lead you down the path, who can bring you hope and all of that. It's priceless.
Yes, so I agree.
I am so excited you're here today, and I know you're going to share some great do's and don'ts with us, but you did a little twist on the night before Christmas. For some people, it is a night.
Yes, in the beginning, it might be. I wrote an article this month and I ended it. I did a little twist because I said when you get divorced, it's certainly a rewrite in your life. So I did a little twist on "'Twas the Night Before Christmas at My House." You want me to read it?
Absolutely. I love it. I love this. So please share.
Okay, so here it goes. "'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a spouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, even the ex's, 'cause he would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, peaceful for Christmas with nothing to dread. And I in my jammies, no one in a cap, was settling in for a long winter's nap. And on a nearby lawn there arose such a clatter, it was the divorcing neighbors forgetting what mattered. Then what to my wondering eyes should appear? It was Santa's sleigh with 8 tiny reindeer. He spoke not a word, but grinned while he worked, and filled all of our stockings and turned with a jerk. A divorced home without any woes? he gave me a wink, and up the chimney he rose. And I heard him exclaim as he flew out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all. Thanks for doing this right."
Yay! That is
Yay!
fantastic. What a wonderful way of switching that up and bringing a little levity to things. So that's what we're hoping you find in this show today, folks. Kathleen, you've got some really great insights. You know, things weren't always easy when you were going through this, and especially with the challenge of losing two homes on top of getting divorced. I mean, it had to be very difficult. So tell us about some of the do's and don'ts that you learned along the way.
Oh, as holidays go, I know in my life, it's gone well, and I agree with everything you teach in your program. I wish I would have known you and all you offer when I was going through this, really. I mean, I've jumped out of airplanes and I'm happy to travel anywhere in the world. And divorce is the scariest thing I ever did in my life. And it's so isolating, and dark is always the word I use, because you do feel so alone.
Yeah.
So I think coaching it is hiring someone who's been through what you've been through. And I think even though now mine is very friendly and great, but it's still really hard. So I always want to acknowledge that not everyone feels like I feel now or you feel now. And in the beginning, it is different than it is now. So that first Christmas for us, we did come together. And I think I talk with clients a lot about your emotional inheritance. I know you discuss it too, your narrative. And we inherited this idea of divorce. And if you don't start thinking for yourself, you feel so stuck, because we've just been taught that you don't get along, you know, and there's a battle involved, and now you have two homes. And I think it's very traditional. Your kids have two or more Christmases and two or more birthdays. And early on in my divorce, we have a couple of families, and I hope you use families you love, and you see the families that do it well. And my daughter said to me, "Well, I bet you're not going to do this as well as her parents." And
Aw.
it just clicked for me, because I said, "Oh, you watch us. We're going to do it so much. You're never going to see people as friendly as we are. We are going to do this so well." And I just had this real vision of just putting my kids in front of me. Like, they're not there to support me, and they're not beside me as my friends. Everything I say and everything I do will be for them. And I think when you do that, you choose to heal your kids. And
And it is something that you go through that needs healing, as any challenge.
and it's hard. There's so many hard things. But I told him, "Well, you do stockings at your house and I'll do them at my house too." And that first year, they got buried in more bath products and fizzy bath bombs than you could use for a lifetime. And you do stop and go, "No, this is silly." So at this point, they had asked, "What are my divorce holiday traditions?" And I said, "I don't have any, because we'll just come together. We'll just have them together." So there's one Christmas and there's one Christmas dinner, and the do's and don'ts, I suppose you have to work them out for yourself. It's so individual what you're going through, but the more you can just come together for your family, and especially for holidays, it's a
Yes.
beautiful.
You know, I'm not sure I've told a lot of people, but my background is that from a personal standpoint, I've never been divorced. I was married almost 40 years when my husband passed away, but I'm a grandchild of divorce. So my grandparents divorced at a time when it was very taboo, and it fractured the family so much that really there was very little contact with one half of my family. And I only recently met a lot of those folks in the last few years, just because of genetic testing that, you know, we were able to find people. And it's such a shame to have lost a lifetime with family and not know these folks that are beautiful. So I'm very grateful that it's happening now. But I think about that when I'm working with families, and when I've got a couple sitting in front of me. I mostly work with couples, although I do coach individuals. But I try to help couples see that there's a more amicable way to go about it if they're open to that. It doesn't work in every case, but if they're able to go through the process together civilly,
Mhm.
respectfully, it does lay a foundation that can help their family to heal in ways that you're talking about. And it may not be the first Christmas or the second, but
Right,
over
right.
time, I've heard of a lot of people who can do these kinds of things. And, I say to clients right up front, do you want to be the reason that your children don't feel comfortable at their own graduation or
Exactly.
wedding or when grandchildren come? You have to think about the kids. It's put kids first and everything else will fall into place. So
Absolutely.
how did
And
you
I know
navigate?
in coaching, we talk about thoughts so much. And, the more we can think about it differently, we don't. I mean, what an independent time to be able to define how you want it to look. And we've all been to those things where everyone's awkward because people are coming together that don't want to see each other. And I think when you realize that's ego, really. I
Mm,
mean, it's ego that you want to tell a story that could change the way your family forever thinks about your ex. And you could tell one story to your kids and change the way they view their mother or father. You can, and you can choose to take the high road, and you can choose to keep those stories to yourself because everybody wants to be the favorite. But and that's hard, but it is a choice to do it differently. And hopefully everyone has someone in their life now that divorced really well. Like
mm,
I grew up where no one was divorced, no one.
mhm.
And I first moved to California, and I met my first divorced family, and they're about the coolest family I've ever met. They all come together, they vacation together, they have all parties, everything they do, they all come together so beautifully. And I never saw any anything unkind ever or disrespectful. And I think we all have those examples if we look for
Mhm.
them. Mhm.
And again, it takes two for that. We're not saying
It's
that it's going to be kumbaya for everybody.
no.
But I have over the years done many interviews. I ran a teleseminar series and a webinar series, and now we're doing a live virtual TV, and I love this. But along the way, I've heard these kinds of stories, and sometimes it just takes time to heal the wounds before
Definitely.
people can look up and say, maybe we could try doing this together for the kids' sake. So don't feel despondent if it's not happening for you now. Continue
Absolutely.
to hold your head high and take the high road and set the example. And sometimes the X will come around. And if not, your children are watching. They know. They'll grow up and understand who was the one that was doing it the right way and who was the one that wasn't, right? The do's
Well,
and
and I
don'ts
think
of
the
life.
road does rise to meet you. I mean,
Mhm.
it's hard to be rude to someone who's being kind to you. So someone has to go first,
Mhm.
set the tone.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So these are a lot of the do's that we're talking about. How about some of the things that you've seen with clients or other people that that would be some of the don'ts, some of the things to not engage with. And I would say right away, start with not engaging if they are out of control. Just step back and remove yourself from the situation. That's a definite do when someone is acting in a way that we don't want to be involved with, right? But what are some things that you can share from a divorce coaching perspective?
I don't to
What
share.
examples, any examples that you can share with us, Kathleen? Things that you've seen people do that you say, don't do that?
Well, just the whole, in the biggest picture, the thing I see the most is I help people after divorce. And it's not so much holiday driven, but choosing to hold on to the resentment more than anything else. I think it's sometimes the ties that bind us to our past are the painful ones, and people don't want to let go of the hate and the anger because it's sort of all you have connecting you.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest don't in divorce and the health of your kids and holidays especially is that really tough process of letting it go and letting someone go. And you know I just think you build a little moat around your life, and if in your new life draw a little circle and only love in and only respect in, and just a really clear boundary that
Yeah.
how someone else is acting is a reflection of them and all they're going through. And you can only do so much about that, but just keeping really clear what you allow into your life, because there's so much work to be done in divorce with reinventing your life. I would want to speak to just self-care, just being so kind to yourself. It's so hard, and I think we lose. I know in my own life, people forget how much you've lost in divorce. Like, I don't have extended family. So through divorce, we used to have these giant Christmases. And now one of the hardest things in divorce for me is the first year, um, there were other plans and it's just me. I mean, that's a crazy thing when my kids grew up with just a giant crowd of people on Christmas, and it's you and you alone in charge of making a fun holiday. That's
Mm,
a lot of pressure.
yeah.
So everything around the holidays can change. It-
How
you
old were
know,
your kids when the separation happened? I'm just curious for.
Mine were high school, which I'm glad. I think, at every age would be so different. But another don't I can think of, they've traveled now without me, and little things I don't care, but it's hard the first year around the holidays when they go on their first cruise or they go on some really big vacation and they had a ball, and then they come home and go, that was the best trip ever. It's like,
Mm.
okay, great. you know, there's a lot of taking the high road. Those are hard times for them to have memories you're not a part of and big adventures you're not a part of. And especially at the holidays, I if you've been through it, and you've been through so much too, but the loneliness is a different kind of loneliness. People that aren't divorced think, oh, I'd love a little time to myself. And it's a depth of loneliness that's definitely something to conquer. Yeah.
And you can also, I do understand that, it may be a time to reach out to other friends who are alone and create some, memories with them. I know
Yeah.
different friends who are divorced or single, or widowed, and they get together and have their own little celebration. And it's very
Right.
nice to have others around you. And also, there are times that you just don't want to be around anyone. And as long as you're not isolating forever and you're falling into a depression funk, that's not a good thing. But if you're just taking time to work on yourself, to, do the things you want, I will tell you the last few days I'm a caretaker to a mom with dementia and brain cancer. And
Oh,
I'm also raising two grandchildren. And they've been out of the house for a few days and I have been loving it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have been cleaning closets and drawers and opening up the energy and expanding for new things to come in. So,
Yes.
sometimes you just got to get up off of it and start doing something to shift, get rid of some of those things that are harboring those old memories. Work on some
Well,
planning for the new year. What does that vision look like for you? What do you want to attract into your life? And the solitude can be wonderful for that.
definitely. Well, and I think, like you said, it depends on which year it is. I mean, I always tell clients, like, you have to hit rock bottom to bounce back up. And like you said, isolation and time spent in dark rooms, on the floor is the first phase. And there's kind of no way around that. But in the following years, I have a client that yesterday she started a new thing with her girlfriends. They all dressed up in crazy Christmas jammies and went out for cocktails, at a dive bar. So your time will become fun,
Yes.
but there is a process you go through. And if
Right.
it's early on, it's rough. It is.
Well, it's the death of a marriage, and
Yeah.
all
And
the.
a lifestyle. Traditions. Christmas is so much about traditions, and you will have lost some, if not all. It's a reconfiguring, and
Mhm.
you'll feel losses maybe more at Christmas because it is such a time of deep tradition.
Yes. And it's okay to sit on the pity pot sometimes,
Oh
you have
yeah,
to let
yeah.
all the emotions flow. It's not about sucking it up at every moment. I mean, sometimes you just need that. But The difference
Absolutely.
is if you cannot pick yourself back up and you really have just sunk into such a funk that you just can't move. That
Right.
is, depression, and you may need some medication to get you through, and that's okay too. It's
Yes.
okay to reach out for help. Doesn't mean you'll be on it for the rest of your life, but life brings us some hardballs sometimes, and we take whatever resources are available to get us through it, whether it's, a therapist, a coach, some medication, getting away, whatever works for you. Just don't sit on the pity pot too long. It's not healthy for you.
Well, and I think we both know January is a big divorce month, right?
Mm,
January, February. So there's a lot of families holding it together for one more holiday in varying degrees of success. So this can be
absolutely.
a tough holiday for many reasons.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what they have found is that January has the highest amount of searches online for the word
Uh,
divorce, and that the most filings happen in March. March is
oh,
divorce month.
interesting. Interesting.
So, yeah, but you're right. That whole first quarter, things really ramp up,
Mm.
and people got through it, and now they're ready to make those changes. So it's also, if you're thinking that, what's the best option, the best way that we can go about this? Because, you know, Kathleen, most people think of divorce, they think of lawyering up and putting on their gloves and duking it out, right? And that is also
Right.
the most sanity and money sucking ways to go about it. There are so many better options out there, working together, whether you're working with a mediator or a financial neutral or a collaborative or cooperative or amicable divorce attorneys. Your attorneys can matter so much in this process. So if
Oh my goodness.
thinking
Yes.
about things, this is a time and you're alone, do some research, figure out what your options are out there. And I will tell you that at divorcetownusa.com, we have a roadmap there that will share with you different options that are available and the pros and cons of each. So help yourself to that, folks, divorcetownusa.com, and look for the free roadmap. And I have to tell you, we normally would have some great slides for you here, but we were dealing with some technical difficulties and we still managed to get on the air on time. So jot that down and reach out and get those free resources. Oh, at Divorce Money Matters, we have a free divorce financial fitness kit. So another thing you can do to allay some of the fears is to prepare in advance. And this is not about plotting, it's about planning. But what do you need to gather, and how should you put it in order, and what documents will you need to prepare for not only your divorce financial planner, but also your attorney? And there's a lot of work that goes into getting divorced here, folks. So, use this time to your best interest, and it will help you feel empowered when the new year comes.
I wish I would have known that too back when. I mean, if there's one fear other than just that fear of being alone forever, it's the money. Oh, that is a stressful, stressful thing. Yeah.
Well, surely. I mean, divorce is about the money and the kids, right? I mean,
Right.
it
And if
comes
we talk
down.
about gifts, I mean, Christmas and gifts, I just personally, I know we've spoken before and we're very aligned on all this, but I think anger is just such an easy knee jerk reaction. And anyone that chooses to admit that things have just faded and changed and, died along the way, and do this amicably, do this thoughtfully and respectfully. It's the harder way in many ways, I think, but it's so worth it. It's such a gift to your
Mm,
whole family to choose to just admit what it is and admit what it isn't, and keep the circle small, to mediators and people that can help you, and coaches and a therapist, and stay all in till you're all out, and do it wisely and kindly.
yeah, that is such sage advice. I mean, just wonderful, because how you start your divorce is likely how you're going to end it.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand what they're getting into. Their emotions are running high, naturally, and maybe they've been served, or maybe they're thinking about it, and they're going to serve their spouse, and they talk to their neighbor and they say, well, my sister's best friend's cousin used this attorney, so go see
Right.
him or her. And the fact of the matter is that that divorce case may have been very different from your own, and you may want to have an amicable divorce, but now you've hired, a shark attorney, someone who's going to go for blood because that they're litigators and that's what they specialize in. But maybe your case
Right.
doesn't need that strong arm, but not understanding that, and just, going and trusting without having asked the proper questions. And that's another gift at Divorce Money Matters, is there's a list of 50 questions that you can look at and say, oh, wow, I didn't even know that I should ask these things. But finding the right team members is so critical, because if you start off on the right foot, it is so hard to backtrack. And I will tell you that I had a woman call me once. She and her husband wanted to do it very amicably, and she had hired an attorney, and he said, let me take care of everything. And he did it in the manner that was normal for a litigated divorce, but that was not what she had intended or understood. And her husband was served with a discovery request. This is a notice to produce documents, going back 20 years, because they had very complicated business matters. And her husband called her screaming, I thought you wanted to do this amicably. And what is this? And okay, I'm hiring the biggest firm in town. And it took off, and it took a life of its own. And it was so sad. So really, really do some research here, folks. Become a proactive partner, not a passive participant in all matters in your life. I taught people that when I taught a breast cancer program. It applies to this situation as well. You need to be involved. You need to have understanding. You need to ask questions and get answers. Otherwise, you may be taken down a road you never intended when you go through divorce town.
Mm-hmm.
So Kathleen, I know that, tell us why you call it divorce, with a road. I'm sorry. Tell us the name of your business again, with a road trip.
Right. Road trip with a life coach.
That's it. And tell us about the meaning behind that.
Well, I started this business 7 years ago, and I know when you start your own business, someone would say, what could you talk about all day, without thinking about it? And that would be helping people reinvent their life, and then take the thing that's almost sort of odd about you. What makes you different? And what makes me different is not that I don't mind traveling alone. I love it. So a common thing I see with clients is how hesitant they are to eat out alone, go to a movie alone, let alone they're waiting. Everyone's waiting to go on their dream trip or their adventure until someone can go with them or give them some sort of permission. So on social media, I'm going first. If people I'm everywhere, and I try to help people get past that, waiting to rewild your life and start your adventure. So I coach by phone from all over the world, but I also get hired to meet people places to go on a road trip with them. So I think most people I talk to, the one thing they want really, when you get past, I always want to say that when you get past the darkness and you're feeling good again, they want adventure. I always tell people, what was it all for if you're not having fun? It wasn't to live your life, upset and hating someone. Let's get out and reinvent your life and have fun.
Mm-hmm. I love
So
that.
my roadmap goes the same place your roadmap goes, Yeah, we're here to enjoy our one life, and you
Really.
spent however many years not. And so now it's time. So I hope people get to the business of enjoying their life.
Yeah, no, that's so wonderful. And I love that you travel alone and enjoy it, because I do too. And it's really, it's nice time to have to yourself and get to know yourself. And what do you want on the next chapter? What road are you going to take next? And sometimes you need that alone time, but it can be scary. I remember the first road trip I did alone, and I was like, wow, because I've always had people around me all the time. And then my husband passed away.
And not to say there's not some awkward moments. I mean, some things are a little more awkward, but overall, it's good.
It can be really nice. So,
Yeah.
enjoy that, folks, if you can. Well, Kathleen, our show time is up. So how can folks reach you? Through divorcetownusa.com, definitely. But
Yes.
you also
www.roadtripwithalifecoach.com.
wonderful. Well, I have enjoyed having you here today, and thank you so much for being my guest. And we're going to stick around in the next half hour and answer any questions that you have.
Can I give a gift since it's Christmas?
Okay, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So just for the people that are seeing the show, today is the 21st of December. So if you see this today on the 21st of December, I'll give a free coaching session. So
Wonderful. Thank you so
yes.
much. All right. Take advantage of that, folks.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.